Hello there, this is Dimitris Christou, and we're back with another video tutorial. And I'm really glad because we're back at building our crazy colorful stuff. And this time around we'll be building fabrics, and we'll keep it simple at least for now. And let's begin. I'll hit the delete key to erase the default cube, and I'll hit Shift A to add mesh a plane. Now I'll hit the S key to scale my plane. I'll scale it 3 times. Okay. And I'll now hit the Tab key to switch from object to edit mode. And I'll hit the S key to scale it on the X axis. I'll scale it at about there. And I'll now hit the R key to rotate and X. And I'll type in 90 to rotate it 90 degrees. We got our plane here. I'll hit Ctrl R for some loop cuts, and I'll scroll my mouse wheel to increase the amount of loop cuts for my plane here, and I'll hit the left mouse button to confirm. And as you can see, what I want here is to have pretty much square faces for my plane. What I'm going to do now is hit the A key to deselect all and A again to select all. And I'll hit W and select subdivides from the specials menu. I'll move right here now at the number of cuts and increase them. I think we're good at about, let's say at about 9. Of course, the more vertices and faces you got, the better your fabric will look. But just cause I'm also recording this, we'll keep it simple both in the fabric geometry and the cloth settings. So for now I think we're okay. Maybe let's another cut. Okay, tab key. I think we're good. I'm also going to change the render from the Blender render to the Cycles render, and I'm going to add a material to my plane. And the material I'm going to use for my fabric is going to be a mix shader. And what I'm going to mix here is a diffuse BSDF surface and a glossy BSDF surface. Now this is the amount of mix for my diffuse and glossy surfaces, and I'm going to move it down to 0.1 simply because I want 90% of the material to be the diffuse, and I only want some slight reflection made by the glossy shader here. Now time to change the diffuse material, the diffuse color. Let's make it purple at about here, and I think I'll add just a tiny bit of roughness for my diffuse shader, and I think we're good. Now I'll hit 1 on my numeric keypad and 5 to switch to front ortho view. I'll hit the tab key to take another look, and I think that I can hit the S key to scale and the X key to restrict scaling on the X axis and scale it down a bit at about here. Okay, and I think it looks slightly better now. Now tab key again, I'm back to object mode, and I'm going to change the material name. I'm going to call it Fabric 1. Now what I'm also going to do is click right here at the settings and change the viewport color. I'll click in the color here to change it, and I'll click the color picker here and take the color from the diffuse so that we're having the color of the object also appearing in our 3D viewport. Now I'll hit Shift D to duplicate my plane and move my copy to the side at about here. And what I'm going to do is click here at this little 2 here to create a single user material for this object, and I'm going to call this new material, and it's now a unique and new material. I'm going to call this fabric 2, and I'm just going to change the diffuse color to green. And the reason I'm copying the objects and just making the material single user by clicking this little 2 right here is because, as you can see, my new material, fabric 2, keeps the same settings, the mix shader, the diffuse and the glossy BSDF surfaces for the copy, and all I have to do is change the color for the diffuse to get a new material. Now again I'll click the viewport color and the color picker and click here for the green material. Now Shift D again for this plane and hit the X key to move it on the X axis and move it at about here. And again click here. We want a unique material for this one as well. I'm going to call it fabric 3, and I'm going to make this orange at about there. Okay, and again viewport color. Okay, now another one, Shift D and X for another copy, and again click here for a single user copy material, change it to 4. It's fabric 4 for this one. I'm going to change the diffuse color. I'm going to make it blue, and also change the viewport color again. And let's just build another plane. Let's just copy and create another plane. I'll hit Shift D again and X. Let's move it over here, and again click this little 2 icon here, and this is fabric 5. Okay, and I'll change the color. Okay, and the viewport color again. Alright, now as you can see, these planes are going to be our cloth objects, and you could really move right here to the physics panel and enable physics for the planes, but what I'm going to do is select them all and move right here at the object and click join. You can also hit Ctrl J. So what I've done here is that I've joined the planes. So now if we hit the tab key to switch to object mode, you can see that the planes are all part of the same object. So we now don't have to add cloth for each and every plane, but we can add cloth for all of them, and it'll work just fine. Now I've enabled cloth, and I'll move right here at the cloth presets and click silk. We want them to be smooth and have some nice flow. I'll also increase the quality. I'll set it to 8, and of course feel free to increase the steps for the quality for your final animation. And let's also see the cloth collision. I'll increase the quality to 3, and the self collision, and I'll increase the self collision quality from 1 to 2. Okay, you can feel free to fiddle with the settings just until you find the right settings for your cloth. I think we're okay here as it is. And one important thing we have to do before moving on, and I'll hit 1 on my numeric keypad, and I'll hit the tab key to switch from object to edit mode, and I'll hit the A key to deselect all, and B for the selection tool here, and I'll drag and select these bottom vertices right here. I hope you can see them. And I'll move right here and add a vertex group for the selected vertices and click assign. Now, as you can see, for the vertex group we have a weight value of 1, and this will help us to pin the cloth at this specific point, which means that the cloth will be static at the place where these vertices are. Now tab key again to move back to object mode, and I think it's time now to hit Shift A and add force field wind. Now you can see the wind object here is an empty actually. I'll hit the G key to grab it and the Z key to constrain movement on the Z axis and move it down. And just because I don't want the wind to be hitting the planes, straight at 90 degrees angle, I'm going to hit the R key to rotate and rotate it just by a tiny bit. I'll set it to, you can see at the bottom left corner, I'll rotate it for 2 degrees. Just by a tiny bit. You can see the arrow of the wind field here. Now I'm going to move to the wind, to the physics panel, to the wind options for the force field. And what I'm going to do is change the strength, and we are going to change the strength a lot. I'll bring it up to, let's say, 900. I'll also increase the flow a bit. I'll make it at about 1.15, and I'll add some noise to my wind. It'll add some sort of variation for the flow of the cloth simulation. Now, okay, I think we're good. The shape is plain, the strength is super high as it has to be, and I think we're good. Now I'll increase the amount of frames for the animation, and I'm going to set the end frame to 450, and I'll now hit Alt A. Oh, wait a minute, we haven't pinned. Oh, okay, escape key, and I think that we still have to pin the cloth. Oh, exactly. Click here for pinning. I'm at the physics for the cloth here for our planes. Click pinning, and over here select the group, and what we're doing here is telling Blender that we want the pinning to appear at the specific group, and remember we have selected the bottom vertices for our planes right here. Now I'll hit Shift A again, or Alt A for the animation, and you have to let some time pass before the wind effect kicks in so we can see it. Okay. Sadly, the reason for being so slow at the frame count is because we're also recording this. And I'll now hit 1. Okay. I'll hit the pause key here, the pause button. And I'll hit the del, the comma key on my numeric keypad to frame the fabrics, to frame the clothes. And I'll hit Ctrl Alt 0 just to place my camera here. Right click this frame to select the camera, and hit the N key. Just move my camera at about here. We don't want to be able to see the bottom of the cloth. Let's bring it to minus 1.2 or minus 1.3. Okay, I'll move it back at, let's say, minus 7, and as you can see I have to bring it slightly up, minus 8, and let's move this one up at about here, 0.9, and I'll set the X to 0. Now as you can see, the fabric, the cloth looks a bit messy. I'll right click to select it, and I'll click smooth for shading. And what I'm also going to do is move right here at the object modifiers and add a subdivision surface modifier. I'll also increase the render amount for the subsurf modifier from 2 to 3. Now in order to render a first frame so we can see how it all looks, I'm moving here at the world buttons and click use nodes for the sky, for the world, and I'm going to change the color to sky texture, and I think I might have to bring the strength up a bit. What we also got in our scene is the default lamp, and let's find it. Okay, it's here. I'll hit the G key to grab the lamp and Y to constrain movement to the Y axis, move it back, and 1 on my numeric keypad, bring it down. I'll hit the G and Z to move it on the Z axis at about here, and I'll move at the lamp options and increase the size, click use nodes, and I'll increase the strength for emission, and again we're setting the settings for the lamp. Let's set the strength to 200. Now 0 on my numeric keypad, just to take a look through the camera, and I'm at the render settings, and let's just increase the render samples for the integrator. I'll set it to 200, and let's click here to render an image. Okay, you can see how it looks. Looks pretty nice. You can also see that the slight amount of glossiness for the materials. The glossy shader right here gives a slight reflection. It looks pretty nice for our cloth. And I'll now hit the escape key. And what I'm going to do now is move at the physics panel right here and move down to the cloth cache. Change the frames. We want to start at 1, and I'm going to set the end at 450. And when you're ready, when you think that your settings are exactly how you want them, you can click bake to bake physics. Now this is going to take a bit of time. Remember that you can set the quality even higher, and again it's pretty slow because I'm also recording this, and this is actually what we have to do to create this nice little animation. It's a nice background animation, and I'm going to pause here for a while because I can see that it moves pretty slowly, and see you in a while. Okay, we're back. Our baking is done. I'll move back to frame 1 and hit Alt A for the animation just to take a look, and you can see that our cloth simulation looks pretty nice. And let's render another frame so we can see the result. Okay, it looks pretty nice, and as you can also see, it renders pretty fast. Okay, escape key. Now you'll probably want to render an animation when you're done building your own scene, and just keep in mind that you don't have to render these frames, until the fabric, the cloth begins to move affected by the wind. So you can easily start rendering your animation, say from frame 140 to the end frame to 450, just so the cloth are moving exactly how you want them to. Now I believe that was pretty easy. Hope you can all follow this video tutorial. I believe it was pretty simple. Good thing is that we have a nice little setup here. We have the fabric pieces, and they're all part of the same cloth simulation. So you can easily change the settings, and those settings will apply to every one of them, simply because they're a part of the same object. Now, if you want to change the materials, you can easily do so by clicking to each one of the materials and change the diffuse color and the glossy settings, etc. So I'll be posting some animation for you to see. I'll be rendering this and posting some results, and of course sharing the final blend file. Let's save it. File, save as, and over here I'm going to call it colorful cloth. So this is it, and thanks for watching.